So, hello everybody and welcome. Yes, welcome back here at BSN Network. Kaduki back here, BSN Network. This is the BSN Network podcast here today. It is Monday, May 10th here today. Hopefully everybody's had a good day so far, or having a good day so far, and had a good rest of their day yesterday. It is, in fact, Monday, May 10th. We're coming out of another weekend. Hopefully everybody had a good weekend. Hopefully everybody enjoyed it. Whatever you did, hopefully it was good. A lot of sports coming out of the weekend to get to today. Yankees are rolling. Nets finally broke out of their 4-game losing streak with their Saturday night win against the Denver Nuggets, a 21-point comeback. Finally got rid of that losing streak, and we got back into the win column, and we are now standing 44-24 with 44-24. That's like 4 games left in the season. We actually do. So we have a game tomorrow, then we have a game Wednesday, and then we have 2 days off, Thursday, Friday, then we have a back-to-back Saturday, Sunday, and that will close out the year for the Brooklyn Nets, and then we'll head into the playoffs. And that's what's great to say is, like, the Rangers, I was saying, that was the last game. Rangers have completed their season, obviously. They also, they got a win, obviously, on Saturday. So, a good way to finish off the year. Like I said, I wanted us to finish off on a high note. We got the job done. Now we look ahead to the offseason. But with the Nets, it's like, okay, we got 4 games, regular season games left. With the Rangers, I didn't want those regular season to end because I knew once it was over, our season was done. But in this case with the Nets, I'm like, kind of like get the regular season out of here. Like, let's go. Like, I want to just get ready for I just want to get ready for the playoffs now. And that's kind of how I'm feeling now. I'm kind of just like, you know what? Let's go. Get this regular season done with, and let's get the playoffs, because that's what us Nets fans have been waiting really since we signed KD and Kyrie, and obviously we made the big trade for Harden earlier in the year, was to get to the playoffs. That's been the big goal, to win a championship. So we're finally getting closer to that mark, which is good. Yankees, excellent homestand by the New York Yankees. 9-game homestand. We were 8-1. The only loss came against the cheaters. Obviously, we swept the National. Wait, did we sweep the National? No. Right, no, my bad. We went 7-2 in the homestand. My bad. So we went 7-2 in the homestand, which was really good. The Yankees looked really good, and it was, I thought we really went out, and I thought we really, did well. I thought, a lot of what we did, was good. I thought our pitching was on. Just checking here. So yeah, so we went 7-2 on the homestand. So I apologize for that. We went 7-2 on the homestand. We swept the Tigers. Then we took 2 out of 3 from the Astros, and then we took 2 out of 3 from the Nationals. So we went, so I apologize about that. So we went 7-2 on the homestand, which is really good, and we now stand in a position to head out on the road now. We play against Tampa, then Baltimore, and then against some Rangers. So that should be good. Like I said, I'm just hoping that we continue this. We're finally, and we're not even hitting we're not even hitting our max potential yet, but we're getting the job done. And that's been the one thing. And like, as a Yankees fan, it's still kind of in the back of your mind of like, we're still not the team that many expected us to be. We're still not. We're 18-16, and we're kind of in one of those situations like, yeah, we're winning, but our hitting, our overall play is not what it can be still. We're not still getting up to what we should be doing, but we're still getting the job done, and that's all that matters. So, Yankees, day off. Nets, day off. Rangers, we're done for the season. Obviously, they're in the off season, so today I'll talk a little about the Rangers to finish out the podcast, and then that's it. And then really, it's kind of all into the off-season stuff. So, now all I've got is the Yankees and Nets right now. But, New York sports has got a little bit of a quiet day today. No Mets, no Yankees, no Nets. So, a little bit of a quieter day, quieter Monday for New York sports. That tends to happen in sports. Mondays usually aren't always too busy. Which is why it's nice during football season, because you got Monday Night Football. That's always on, obviously. That's always nice. But in this case, football is obviously not on. So, not much on tonight. Still, I'm sure some other sports games on as well. But let's get into topics for today. This is what we will be talking about. for today's podcast. We got Marcus May and the Jets. It seems like the Jets are really working hard, but I talked about Marcus May probably a little bit ago, and I can't even remember the exact day, but definitely probably a couple months ago. Really, probably the last time I talked about Marcus May was when the Jets put the franchise tag on Marcus May, which means they'll keep him on the franchise tag for 1 year to avoid, him being a free agent, him getting picked up by another team. We put the franchise tag on him, and it still allows you to get a deal done. So the New York Jets obviously have until July 15th to get a deal done with Marcus May. That's the deadline for long-term deals in the NFL. So July 15th, the Jets have. So the Jets still have 2 months here to get a deal done. But what's something I want to talk about today was things are starting to heat up about the deal. After the draft, Joe Douglas said that that's still one of their top priorities. And then also Robert Saleh said at the rookie minicamp, he said that they're working relentlessly, and which kind of means just they're working really hard to try to get a deal done. So I'm going to talk about, if I think it's true and if I would like a long-term deal to get done involving Marcus May. So we'll get into that. I have a couple of stuff to talk about in the next topic. It's going to be NHL news and the Rangers I want to get to today. So, obviously, we heard about John Tortorella. He got fired, or he's leaving Columbus, I should say. He didn't get fired, but they mutually agreed to part ways. And as you all know, he's a former Rangers coach. And the Rangers right now are kind of at a questionable mark at head coach. We are in a situation where we have David Quinn as our coach right now, but very well in the next coming days, we could very well move on from him. And we could also keep him. And if we do move on from him, one of the names that has popped up was John Tortorella. Now, the only way we would get him is if he did get fired or mutually parted ways. He has parted ways, and a lot of people think that if the Rangers do move on to Quinn, he could be one of the front runners to take over the job again. Tortorella was the Rangers coach a couple years back, so he could possibly be taking it over again. We'll see how it plays out. And we got another story with Jack Eichel. He has publicly expressed his frustrations with the Buffalo Sabres, and not that he hinted towards him wanting to, move on from the team, but he kind of said that, I don't like what's going on right now, and hopefully it's better, next season, and I'm getting prepared for next season, obviously still rehabbing for whatever team I play. So, he did not say the Sabres, he did not say any specific team, which could possibly mean that maybe he's feeling that his time in the Sabres is numbered, and another guy the Rangers could be looking at, especially with our GM change, the Rangers could be in a situation where we could go all out for this Buffalo Sabres star player, Jack Eichel. So we'll get into that. So kind of like two topics combined into one, because I heard about both the news, and I was like, I don't want to wait to talk about something tomorrow and then, wait for that. Originally, I was just going to talk about John Tortorella, and then the Eichel news came out, and I was like, I got to talk about Eichel. So I'm going to talk about both, because they're both very big stories for the New York Rangers, and we'll get into that. Then we'll finish off the podcast with the normal, like I do every single podcast, the New York Sports Update. I'll give you an update around the sporting world. Like I mentioned, Nets, Yankees, all off today for my favorite teams. Obviously, Rangers season is over. I'm kind of in the mode right now where I'm just ready for playoffs in the NHL and the NBA. Obviously, I don't got a team in the NHL playoffs, but playoff hockey, whether your team is in it or not, is always fun to watch. So I'm excited for that. Obviously, I'm frustrated my New York Rangers aren't in it. I would love them to be, but still, playoff hockey is playoff hockey. It's a lot of fun. The energy, watching the games, it's always a lot of fun. So it's good. And obviously, playoff hockey, too, last year, you could tell the fans are pivotal in playoff hockey. Fans are pivotal in any sport, but especially hockey. And it's going to be good to see fans back for playoffs again this year. And then, like I said, the Nets, I'm kind of in the situation where, get these 4 games over with and let's head to the playoffs because we've been all waiting for this all year long. So, with all that being said, this is the BSN podcast, and let's get into it. So Jets working relentlessly on Marcus May's contract, says head coach Robert Saleh. So, first off, a quick overview on the New York Jets. I would like to say this about the New York Jets. First of all, rookie mini camps went really well this week. Obviously, they closed out today, I believe. So it was on Friday, Saturday, Sunday, then today. And I believe today they are done with. So they have no more rookie mini camps. And it's kind of like in a little bit of that period now where you're in that little bit of that mode. Like you're kind of in a waiting mode now. You're just waiting for training camp to start because OTAs and stuff like that. That's all happening right now, but that's mainly virtual. Some guys are coming in, but it's not OTAs isn't practice. It's just off-season like training and stuff. So, weight room and, running and stuff like that. So that's a lot of what they do, plus meeting with coaches and learning the playbook and stuff like that. But rookie minicamp, they're actually able to get out there on the field. So the next time a lot of these guys will be out there on that practice field will be training camp. So there's a little bit of a halt in the action from now until training camp, which is all the way in July, which... it kind of stinks that that's the case because I was so excited to see all the clips and stuff from minicamp and stuff like that, and I was kind of like bummed to be like, it's like now I gotta wait till training camp, now. But I can't complain too much. There's so much other sports on to watch. But yeah, that's kind of my quick thing on the New York Jets. So rookie minicamp went well. It's tough to judge how the players are doing just because. It's rookie minicamp, and it's not a full 11-on-11, and you don't got all the game scenarios and stuff like that. It was a lot of just training, the guys getting ready, players learning the playbook. It was the basic introduction to the NFL, them getting comfortable, them getting into the new system that the Jets are running, and that's obviously what it's all about. So it's over now, and now I feel like as the New York Jets, now they're rookie minicamp, and I feel like this is where the Marcus May stuff comes in, and I feel like this is why all of a sudden the Marcus May rumors are starting to heat up. Because now that rookie minicamp is over, now that the draft is over, there's that period, that haul right now where you have about 2 months until, a little less than 2 months I would say, because I think training camp starts maybe early July. So it's May 10th. So about 2 months until training camp. So now we have this little bit of an area where there's not much action. There's still OTAs and stuff like that, but no organized practice. A lot of just guys doing their thing on their own. So now is an area where the New York Jets could very well take some time to work out a deal with Marcus May. And that's what the New York Jets are trying to do right now. Now that the draft is over, now that free agency is over, now that you can kind of say the business part of the offseason of all the signings and the trades and the draft is over, and now that we finally got rookie minicamp, in and it's done now, and now you look at it, now you have this time where you got about 2 months until training camp starts, and the Jets got 2 months in order to get this deal done with Marcus May. And this could be one of these things that takes a really long time. It could take all the way up until July 15th for them to get a deal done. And that's where it's kind of like in this weird situation where it's like, it could happen anytime, this deal could get done. But I really believe it's going to happen. If it's going to happen, I believe it's going to happen soon. Because the Jets are going to have to get it done, and they're going to have to just start to get focused on what the season ahead of us. Because that's the worst thing you want. Is to go into training camp, go into the early part of the season, and you got all this news and all this stuff about a player wanting a new contract. Now, Marcus May has not come out publicly and said he wants all this money and he wants all that. He has said that he wants to stay with the New York Jets. He has said that he likes it playing for the Jets and he wants to be a part of their future. He has said that. A lot of players will say that. I have no issue with that. He has not said anything. He has not been pushy, I would say, with the deal. He took the franchise tag. He's okay with it. Right? He has not been in any situation where it's like, pay me or else I'm not going to play. He's not that kind of guy. He's still young. He's still got a bright future ahead of him. He's not going to build a reputation for that early on in his career where he's going to just want all this money. Now, if you're asking me, and I know a lot of people are going to have different opinions on this with Marcus May, and I can see where you're coming from. I know a lot of Jets fans, I would say about 95, I would say the majority of the Jet fan base wants Marcus May to get signed. And the reason I think that is because, first of all, he's one of our best defenders. He was probably our best player last season, maybe all around on a team standpoint. He might have been our best player. And him and Quinnen Williams were really close, and Mekhi Becton. But overall, you could say he might have been the best player on the team last year. I think he might have actually won team MVP last season. I would have to go back and check. So you got him. You got Marcus May, who probably is the best player on the team last year. He's a leader. He's already been a leader. So there's a lot to him that's really good that would make the Jets think they would want to pay him. Now, there's always those people, and I'm that kind of person too, that whenever you hear about a young player, especially a guy like Marcus May, who has been in the league for a little bit now, like 3-4 years now, and he's finally broke out last season. And a lot of times people, a lot of times fans, a lot of times organizations don't always want to take the risk of giving a guy all this money after he had one really good year and then 2-3 okay years. And that's kind of how it was with Marcus May. He had a really good year last year. He had excellent numbers, had an amazing year. But the past couple years, he was good, but it was nowhere close to his production last season. He doubled a lot of what he did in his previous couple years, all in last season. He had a great year last year. Now, the reason I think the Jets should give Marcus May the money is, number one, he's young, and that's great. That's great that he's young, right? He's a guy that, he's young. He is a guy that, is still learning. He's still getting a lot done, but he's also acting like a leader, and he was like a leader last season in the locker room. He's taken over, I would say, and he's still very young. And, now that C.J. Mosley's coming back this season, you might see Mosley take over a little bit more of the leadership role. But Marcus May has been a leader on this team, and that's been big. And players, coaches want that, especially Robert Saleh. He's talked about players that love the sport. He's talked about players that are going to be very good teammates. He's talked about players that are going to be good around the organization. And Marcus May does exactly that. And he's done that for his entire career now. That's not just something that took place last season. And another reason I think Marcus May really broke out last year was because Jamal Adams wasn't there. Jamal Adams, obviously the Jets traded last offseason to the Seattle Seahawks. We got a bunch of picks in return. One of those picks was this year. The next one will be next year. Obviously those 2 first-round picks. Then we got a couple extra thirds and I think a fourth in there as well. And now that Jamal Adams was gone, Marcus May got put into a bigger role, and he lived up to that role. And I look at that as like, wow, when he's out there by himself, right? When he's not, because he's meant to just be a safety. He was in a couple different formations and situations when Jamal Adams was there because Jamal Adams was the Jets' main safety. Then it was Marcus May. But Marcus May showed when he can be the main safety, he can be the main guy back there, he can be a true threat. And that's why we got him coming out of college. So that's one thing I really feel like. Like, Jamal Adams was gone, Marcus May came in, stepped up, and had a big-time season. Right? And I feel like for a guy that's still young, and for a guy that's still, learning, he is still taking over a leadership role. And that's why I feel like a deal will get done, because Saleh has talked about over and over and over and over again, not just getting guys in here that are very skilled and good football players, but getting guys in here that are good teammates, good on and off the field, because a lot of the off the field stuff will decide what path your career is going to go on, be good in the locker room, be a mentor to some of the other guys, and be a leader. Overall, be a leader, and that can kind of fall into the first thing I said, which was be a good teammate category. When you're changing the culture, you want to bring in guys that are going to be good leaders. You want to bring in guys that are going to be passionate about the sport. You're going to want to bring in guys that hate to lose more than they love to win. Right? That's Marcus May. And that is something that the New York Jets need in this locker room. They need a guy like Marcus May. Not just what he does on the field, it's what he does off in the locker room, in the weight room and all that stuff. This is a guy who's made big improvements throughout his career. He seems like he gets better each and every year. We saw him get better his second year, then into his third, and then last season we saw him make this ginormous jump that I don't think many people even saw coming. And that's been one of the things that has been pivotal with Marcus May and this team. And, us trying to build a solid foundation, a solid foundation here. Right? And that's been one of the big things I think with Saleh and what he's been trying to do is he's trying to build a solid foundation here with the New York Jets. And Marcus May would be a big part of that. So it's not just what he brings on the field, it's also what he brings off the field. That's pivotal, and that is a big factor to trying to get this team right back on the right track. And like I said, now this might just be B, because I actually really like Marcus May. I liked him since we drafted him. This might just be me, but in my own personal opinion, I really feel like this is a guy that, he could very well be the future of that secondary here. And I think if you do give him a 3-4 long-term deal, it might just give him more of a work harder kind of attitude. And, it's a guy that still comes into training camp almost. He said it's almost like he still comes into training camp and practice when he seems like he still has to earn something. Like last year, he was going in training camp and practice like he still had to earn something. Like he still had to earn playing time. Although playing time was already given to him, he plays in practice, and he practices and plays and trains like he has to earn a roster spot. And that's exactly what Robert Saleh and Joe Douglas want. Is a guy like Marcus May that does that, right? He's a guy that's going to go out there, that's a guy that's going to go out there, week in and week out, practice hard, play hard, and ultimately try to get this team, victories and try to get the team, back on the right track. And that's obviously one of the big things that he brings to the table. And I wouldn't, it's tough to say. That it's going to be one of those things. It's tough to say that, is he going to be a one-year wonder? Well, you could say that about a whole lot of players. But with him, it's crazy how Jamal Adams leaves and all of a sudden he dominates. Well, it's because he got more playing time. He got more opportunities. He was in a position that he was more familiar with, obviously, as a safety. But, when Adams was there, he's playing a little bit of free and strong safety. He's just a safety. And that's one of those things where, it's kind of like, he just needed to get his opportunity to play, and he could make the most of it, and that's what he did last season. And you could almost, too, consider that last year with Marcus May, that last year with Marcus May was almost like a make-or-break year. Because if he had a bad year last year, you're talking about, then him going to free agency, and then they don't know if they're going to franchise tag him. You're talking about them possibly just completely letting him go. So that's another big thing, too. Now, could he very well still play off the franchise tag this season, and maybe the Jets want to play the game of, hey, let's see if he can do it 2 years in a row? Sure, but then next year, you got to watch out. You got to hope that not another team comes in and swoops him up. That's the one thing. So Jets working relentlessly on Marcus May's contract, says head coach Robert Saleh. The New York Jets are still working to sign Marcus May to a long-term deal after placing the franchise tag on the safety this offseason. Head coach Robert Saleh provided the latest on the situation per Adam Maya of NFL.com. So this is what Robert Saleh, head coach of the New York Jets, said. We had a really nice discussion, and obviously him and his agent are working with Joe on trying to get his deal done, and hopefully that happens soon. I have a tremendous amount of respect for what players are going through. Again, you guys know my philosophy. I think these kids have earned the right to ask for whatever they can, especially when they do things the right way, like Marcus May has. Joe and his staff are working relentlessly to get something done. Now, is that something a short-term deal? Maybe a 2-year small deal, and go ahead and say, hey, if it doesn't work out, you're gone. Maybe it's a 2-year and an opt-out after this year, a team option after this season. Or maybe it's a long deal, like a 5-year deal, and you go all in on him. One or the other. And obviously, Saleh has got to have some say in this, because as a defensive player, Saleh's a defensive-minded guy. So, you gotta think as a Jets fan, maybe that makes you a little bit more confident, like, hey, our head coach who's a defensive-minded guy, he wants this guy. He obviously feels he's going to fit the system. So, we'll see how it plays out. But at the end of the day, it's up to Joe Douglas. Now, Joe Douglas has not spent much money since he's been here. He's always had that track record. He doesn't like to spend much. He likes to build through the draft and likes to really bring in guys that he trusts. He doesn't like to just go out for all the big namers and grab them. He likes to grab scheme fits. He likes to grab guys throughout the draft. So maybe this is something where Joe Douglas is like, do I really want to go all in on this guy? That might be an option there. The New York Jets are still working. I already read that. The two sides have until July 15th to agree on a contract, or May will make $10.6 million in 2021, on the one-year tender before becoming a free agent in 2022. General Manager Joe Douglas noted the importance of a new deal earlier in May. Now, this is May the month. Now, that's one thing that sometimes get confusing. When people talk about Marcus May, and like in this article it said, General Manager Joe Douglas noted the importance of a new deal earlier in May. Well, Marcus May, you know. But anyway, so it's still a priority to keep Marcus here long term, Douglas said, per Brian Costello of the New York Post. We had a productive text back and forth with his agent. We're hoping to really dive into this now that the draft's over. And that's what I mentioned earlier on in the podcast. Now that, the draft's over, now that really all the big off-season stuff is over, and now you really got your roster set, now's the opportunity, the time to really look and say, hey, now we can focus on trying to sign him to a long-term deal. And maybe that's what the Jets do. Maybe that's their focus for the next couple weeks here. It's just going all out on Marcus May. And maybe that's what they do. Maybe for the next 2 weeks, they set a timetable. And maybe they go ahead and say, hey, we're going to give you 2 weeks. We're going to lay a deal on the table. You like it or you don't. Or if you like it, you take it. If you don't, you're going to play on the franchise tag. Maybe that's something like that. May has been a key part of the Jets defense since being selected in the second round of the 2017 NFL Draft, starting every game he has played over the past 4 years. He played every defensive snap in 2020, per Pro Football Reference, finishing second on the team with 88 tackles. The safety was all over the field last year, totaling 11 passes defended, 2 interceptions, 2 sacks, and 2 forced fumbles. Keeping May on the roster will be key for Saleh as he tries to replicate the success he had running the San Francisco 49ers defense over the past 4 years. The Jets finished last season 26th in the NFL in points allowed, on the way to a 2-14 record in 2020. I hate to say that because it's ugly, but yes, we did. But like I said, he's a scheme fit. He would help Saleh, and that's where I kind of sit here and maybe think of that as well. Like, maybe this is one of these things where, Saleh really does just, like him and like him as a player, and obviously like him more as a guy in general. And maybe this is one of these things where you gotta look at it as with Marcus May. Maybe you look at this situation and go ahead and say, hey, he was, what we did in San Francisco is what Marcus May can replicate, and that's another thing too. Everyone always talks about this in deal, and sometimes people aren't always fair to each individual player. Like, they'll be like, oh, don't give this guy a long-term deal, or something like that. But everyone always talks about health as one of the big things. As I've accidentally touched on something. All right. Accidentally pressed off my page. So, yeah, so obviously, back to the Marcus May thing. Another thing with him is an extra added bonus. This is a guy who has not gone injured much, has been out there on the field, has, played every snap last season, and for a guy that's still young, he's really done a great job of playing that leadership role for the New York Jets. And obviously last season he had 52 solo tackles, 2 forced fumbles, 2 interceptions, 11 passes defended. He's only 28 years old. He's obviously played 4 seasons, but every season he's played in, he's played every game he started. Every game he's played, he started, including last season. He played every snap. He's played a total of 54 games in his career. Now in 2018, he only played 6 games, but those 6 games he did start. Other than that, 2017, 16 games, 2019, and last year, he all played 16 games. And another thing I wanted to mention, too, was this was a guy who in his first 3 years of his career had a half a sack total. Last season, he had 2 sacks. So he upped that. And that's another thing, too. A lot of people are going to want to talk about the stats. Marcus May is a completely different player than Jamal Adams is. Jamal Adams was a blitzing safety. He still is. He's a blitzing safety. He's more of a safety linebacker type player. Marcus May is more of a zoned type safety. He's a guy that's going to sit back. He can play man. He can more be a guy that's going to affect the passing game. So the sack numbers, the fact that he only has 2.5 sacks in 4 years, that's not concerning to me when he doesn't play, when he's not a big sack producer. Right? There's 2 different types of safeties. There's a Jamal Adams type of safety, where you could also place him at linebacker. And there's a Marcus May type of safety, where he's strictly a safety. He could also guard, the tight end or something. And he could play man, he could play zone. He's more of an effective guy in the passing game. He doesn't blitz as much. You just look at his career stuff. Obviously, he's had 6 total interceptions in his career, which is, I think, a lot more than Jamal Adams has. So you could compare those two stats. Obviously, last season he had 2 interceptions. He had a career high in passes defended last season, which was 11. It's just a lot. A lot of just good stuff from him last season. Obviously, he had a career high in tackles, a career high in solo tackles, a career high in assists on tackles. Had a total of 88 tackles last season. 52 of those were solos. So that was obviously a big thing. 266 total tackles in his career. He's played a total of 54 games. So, he's going to go into his 5th year. And, he's 28 years old. He will be 28 years old when the season starts. So, we'll see how the Jets want to play this. Do the Jets play this, and do the Jets play more of the long-term game and kind of wait it out and, have negotiations here and there and see what they're doing? Or do they want to get a deal done now and just have him on the team for years to come? We'll see how it all plays out. But I definitely would agree with the Jets signing Marcus May to a long-term deal. Now, I definitely would. Because to be honest, outside of Marcus May, who's going to be our safety? We went out and got LaMarcus Joyner, but he's not a guy that's going to be able to start at safety every game. So you also got to realize that if you take Marcus May away, who you got? That's the issue. Sure, you could say Ashton Davis, but Ashton Davis is also a guy, last season he played a little bit of safety, but he played a little cornerback last season. He played a little safety. I do believe he might have returned a kick or two. He could do a little bit of everything. He's not just a safety. So, the New York Jets here, I definitely think got to go out and spend some money on him. I definitely do. Because, people might sit here and say, okay, well, just get rid of him. You could just go, well, if you get rid of him, who do you have? No one. Exactly. So, definitely think the Jets should try and get a deal done soon. And, I think it would be better for the team, too. Instead of all this stuff going into training camp and into the season, just get the deal done and move on and get ready for the regular season. That's how I see it. So, but with all that being said, that will do it for the Marcus May and the Jets rumors. Not really rumors. I mean, Robert Saleh and Joe Douglas literally said it. But the Jets and the Marcus May contract negotiations. So we'll get into that. That's what I got there for that. And coming up next, a lot of NHL stuff. And a lot of NHL stuff that's going to impact the New York Rangers. So John Tortorella is leaving the Columbus Blue Jackets, and Jack Eichel is angry with the Buffalo Sabres. Two people who the New York Rangers could be targeting. John Tortorella, if the New York Rangers do in fact decide to move on from David Quinn, John Tortorella could be an option to come to the New York Rangers, and this does not have anything to do with the coach, but the New York Rangers could also very well go all out on Jack Eichel this season, and a lot of people believe with Chris Drury as the GM, he's going to go out. A lot of people believe he's going to try and go all out for Jack Eichel. So I'll get into those two big stories coming up next. Alrighty, so let's welcome you back here. So let's kind of get into the New York Rangers, and there was two big stories that broke today, and then broke obviously yesterday. Or 2 days ago or something like that. I don't know exactly when the John Tortorella stuff became public. But obviously the New York Rangers season is over. I've mentioned it probably 1,000 times in this podcast already. Their season is done. And there's a lot of questions heading into the offseason. Now that we fired our GM, and this is what I want to say. This is how much firing of a GM and a team president can do. Is all of a sudden now there's all these questions with the New York Rangers. I wouldn't say they're bad questions. They're just questions that are needed to be asked, and they could also very well be answered in the upcoming future here as the offseason gets rolling. Now, a trade for Jack Eichel, a hiring of a new head coach, that's down the road. The NHL playoffs haven't even started yet. That is down the road. That's stuff that's going to happen, way later on in the offseason, probably summertime to, it's really down the road. So a lot of this is just going to be on and on and on and on about, with the Rangers, should they go after this guy or this guy and this guy? But I wanted to get into this. So, first of all, John Tortorella won't return as Blue Jackets head coach next season. Now, I wanted to say this. Okay, these two stories that came out, Tortorella and then Jack Eichel, both impact the Rangers in big ways. Because now, if the New York Rangers do decide to move on from David Quinn, Tortorella, many people believe, could be an option as a replacement for him. And Jack Eichel, a lot of people believe, might be headed to the Rangers. Actually, a lot of people believe if he is going to get traded, it's going to be to the New York Rangers because, and now that we fired our GM and Chris Drury is going to be in here, Chris Drury, a lot of people believe, is a guy that's going to want to spend money, a guy that's going to want to go out there and build a team that's going to be able to win very, very soon. A win now type team. I don't want to say the Rangers would turn into the Nets of the NHL, but it would almost be like that. It's going to be, he would want to turn it into a win now type team. Get a lot of talent and try to win now, try to have success now, and then still build for the future. But I would like to say this first about Rangers, okay? A lot of Rangers fans out there are already thinking that David Quinn's not even our head coach, okay? David Quinn might not get fired. He might still be our head coach going into next season. I believe that there's a 50-50 chance he is our coach, and I believe there's another 50% chance that he isn't. I believe Chris Drury could go ahead and say, hey, let's give him one more year, see what he does. Maybe build this roster up a little bit more and see what he does. And maybe there's another 50% of Chris Drury that says they cleaned out front office, might as well just start fresh with the coach, bringing in a couple new players here and there, just start fresh overall as an organization. He could look at it that way too. A lot of people a lot of Rangers fans out there are acting like David Quinn's already gotten fired. They're like, could Tortorella be, we should hire Tortorella, or we should, hire this guy. David Quinn's still our head coach. So just hold on a little bit, right? Like, a lot of people are already like, we got to hire this guy, or maybe hire this guy. We might not even be in the coaching market this offseason. Now, if we miss the playoffs next year, I can guarantee you that David Quinn's not going to be a head coach because he'll be heading into his fourth season. I would assume that this roster is only going to improve over this offseason. It's going to be a real opportunity, 82 games, back to the normal conferences and divisions. If we don't make the playoffs next season, David Quinn's definitely going to be gone. And if he isn't, I'm going to definitely be frustrated. Now, if you got to ask my opinion on it, and I know a lot of people, a lot of Rangers fans are like me. You're kind of split on it. I don't think there's one Rangers fans out there that are like really despise David Quinn and like he's got to go. But I do think there's a lot of Rangers fans like me that are kind of like, you know what? Like, I could see why he would stay, but I could also see why it might just be best to just get rid of him, let Drury bring in his guy, and let him start over. It could almost be like what the New York Jets did. They brought in Douglas. Douglas got his guy in Robert Saleh. And obviously we'll see how the season plays out and how the future plays out for the Jets. But I feel like that's what could be the same thing with the Rangers. We fired the GM and team president. Now we brought in a new GM. And now that GM could bring in his guy, his coach, build his own roster and kind of start like that. That could very well be an option. Now, if the Rangers do decide to move on from David Quinn, this is if. They have not done that yet. Let me make that clear. They have not fired David Quinn yet. If I'm not mistaken, Chris Drury said sometime this week they're going to make decisions on what they're going to do with coaches and, different players and just the organization as a whole. They're going to sit down and have a conversation. He said he's going to meet with David Quinn. Maybe he asked David Quinn, what his plan is, and kind of asks him, what he sees in this team, and if their opinions, if their strategies match up, he'll keep them. If they don't, then he's going to get rid of them. That could very well be a possibility. I do think if David Quinn's going to get fired, he's going to get fired soon. I don't think it's going to be something that's just going to be abruptly out of the middle of nowhere, just gets fired, in the middle of the offseason. I think if he's going to get fired, he's going to have to get fired soon. I think it's going to be better off for him to get fired soon so the Rangers can actually officially enter the coaching market and look for all those coaches out there. That's what I think the Rangers got to do. Now, if David Quinn gets fired, John Tortorella could be an option for the New York Rangers. Now, John Tortorella obviously used to coach New York Rangers 5-6 years ago about. I know he was with the team when they were in the Winter Classic against the Flyers and stuff like that, but then it was Tortorella, then Alain Vigneault, and then now it's David Quinn. So it was Tortorella. So Tortorella, I got to check exactly when he coached us, but he coached us a couple years back. So obviously a guy who has got a lot of playoff experience, a lot of NHL experience. He's been around a long time here. He coached the Rangers. Obviously, most recently here, he's coached the Columbus Blue Jackets. So he's obviously been around the NHL for a little bit here. He's not new at all. And I know Tortorella has a very mixed bag of followers throughout the league. I know a lot of people really like him. They like his energy. They like his passion. And I know a lot of people hate him. They don't like him at all. A lot what he says, they don't like his passion, his energy. I got to admit, Tortorella, the way he coaches the game is unique. He's a very unique coach. And obviously, it's okay to be unique coaches out there. Sometimes being a unique coach or more of a coach that approaches things differently, sometimes that's where you get some of the more successful coaches out there. And I would say John Tortorella has been pretty successful. Has he been very successful? No. But he's been successful. Right? He's done his job. He's led teams to the playoffs. He's obviously, gotten some of his teams to, obviously great accomplishments and gotten, his teams to, be competitive and stuff like that. But, obviously, has he been an all-time great coach? No. But, that doesn't mean he's bad. But this season, definitely some of the things he would say. Now, he's very hard on the players. He is. And I truly think, and I remember when he was with the Rangers, when he was with the Rangers, a lot of what he did was trying to get the best out of the players. He was very hard on the players. He's more of a John Tortorella type coach. He's more of a kind of a guy that wants to just win. Whatever is best for the team, he will do it. Whether that's sitting a player and bringing in another guy, he's going to do it. We saw it this year. He benched Pierre-Luc Dubois. Okay, arguably one of their better players. He was not playing well. He was kind of playing a little lazy. He benched him. A lot of other coaches around the league would not have done that. They would not have done that. Now, do I agree or disagree with the move? Well, I could see it either way. I could see, why he benched him, because he was a little lazy. He had a couple lazy plays in the game, and there was a couple moments where, it just didn't seem like he was trying. And I could also see it where, he's your best defenseman, just let him go out there and try to work through it himself. Now, when he first benched him, I thought it was a little crazy. But at the time, I never saw the replay of Pierre-Luc Dubois because it happened in that same game. And I saw the replay, and I was like, okay, I could see why now. But I was still a little 50-50 with it because, once again, he's kind of, you either hate Tortorella or you love him. There's no in between. So... And the Rangers, he had success with the Rangers. He got him to the playoffs. I believe I'm not mistaken. He was the head coach of that team that made the Stanley Cup that year. Obviously, we lost to the LA Kings, but the fact that we made the Cup was unreal. The one issue with John Tortorella is his young players. He's kind of a guy that might be a guy that might be a little hard on the young guys. If the young players aren't playing well, he might be one of those guys that says, "Hey, you're not playing well. I'm bringing in another guy." Meanwhile, you gotta let some of the young guys just grow and learn. Now, if Tortorella comes back, I would not be mad. He had success with the Rangers. He had some success with the Blue Jackets. He's had some playoff success. Obviously, he's obviously had some playoff success. He's obviously he's had 20 seasons as an NHL head coach, so he's got excellent history behind him. Meaning like history. I don't know how I say history, but he's had an excellent career in the NHL. He's been around the game a long time, so I could see the Rangers approaching it that way, and also a guy that's already been with the organization. So it's not like you're bringing in a brand new, fresh face. You're bringing a guy that's already been with the team. He's already been with the Rangers. He's coached the team, right? He knows what it's about. So bringing him in again, you see how it plays out. It's kind of sometimes rare to see a coach the team twice, coach, fire, then coach it again. But maybe this is the route the Rangers do want to take. John Tortorella won't return as Blue Jackets head coach next season. This is big for the Blue Jackets too. Who do they take? They struggled this year, the Blue Jackets. a lot of people would blame it on Tortorella. He did make some moves, some questionable moves definitely, but that's just how he coaches. He wants the best. He kind of is a win-now type guy. He's a guy that, if you're not playing well, you're going to pay for it. After a last-place finish in the Central Division this season, John Tortorella's time as a head coach of the Columbus Blue Jackets has come to an end. Alex Portzeline of The Athletic first reported Saturday that Tortorella told the Blue Jackets he won't return to the team with his contract set to expire this summer. Blue Jackets general manager and alternate governor Jarmo Kekalainen confirmed the news Sunday. Tortorella released a statement on the decision. So this is from John Tortorella. After discussion and consideration on the future direction of the team, Jarmo and I have come to the mutual agreement to part ways. I'd like to thank the Columbus Blue Jackets organization for the opportunity to coach this team and live in the great Columbus area. It has been a privilege to work with the players, coaches, and hockey operations staff, which is one of the best in the league Also, I want to thank the Columbus Blue Jackets fans and the community for the support they've given the team and for the work of the Columbus Blue Jackets family and support of the community. Columbus finished the 2020-2021 season with an 18-26-12 record after Saturday's 5-4 win over the Detroit Red Wings. Its 48 points were tied with the Red Wings for the fewest in the Central Division. There was a point this season when it looked like the Blue Jackets are going to be a playoff contender. They were 13-12-7 through 32 games, but they proceeded to lose 14 of their final 19 games. Tortorella was hired by the Blue Jackets in October 2015 after Todd Richards was fired following an 0-7-0 start to the season. The Blue Jackets made 4 consecutive trips to the postseason between 2016 and 2017 and 2019 and 2020. They advanced to the second round in 2019, but lost in the opening round 3 times during that stretch. Tortorella is the franchise all-time leader in games coached 447, wins 227, and playoff games 31. The 62-year-old owns a 673, 541, and 37 record in 20 seasons as an NHL head coach. So obviously, a career of winning record, 673 wins, 20 years coached. So he's got experience. He's been around the game. He's 62. He's got experience. 20 years in the NHL. Been around the game, right? He knows what it's like, and I could see that benefiting the Rangers, but I could also see it maybe like, do you want to bring in a more of a coach that might be better with some of the younger guys? And I could see that. Now, Tortorella had success with the New York Rangers. Now he had success with a different team. That team was not a bunch of 20, 22 years olds on that team. That team was more veteran. That was the McDonoughs and some of the older guys on that team. That team was not the young team. Now this team now is very young. So, it'd be interesting to see how it plays out. I know a lot of people are going to want to look at this most recent year and say, oh, he was terrible. Well, yeah, he was. They did not have a good year. But at the same time, you got to look at it as, he's got 673 wins in his career. He's almost got 700 wins in his career. He's holds all-time leader in games coached and wins in the franchise, and playoff games 31. So he's got playoff experience too. So, he has a lot to him. And I when he was with the Rangers, he had success. He got us to the playoffs. He had us competitive. So, do the Rangers decide to go the Tortorella route? Maybe a guy that's already familiar with the organization? I could very well see it. I just don't know. I don't know really if this is something the Rangers would do, though. Or do they go out and target a guy that might be, I don't know. It's just, he's unique. He has a different coaching style. He has a little bit of a different coaching style. And that's just one of the things. And that's where, with organizations and players and stuff like that, sometimes it's one of those things where it's like, do you want to bring in a guy that, a little bit of a unique coaching style? Because he does. And fans, and I will agree with that. But he had success with the New York Rangers. So, and obviously Alain Vigneault came in there, and now we're sitting here with David Quinn, and could Tortorella be back? And that's another thing, too. It's big to be the coach of the New York Rangers. It's big to be the coach of a New York franchise. So, for a guy that's already done it once, to do it again, you could look at it as, it's not like you're bringing in a brand new face him having all the pressure on it. Tortorella has already handled the pressure. He did it with the Rangers a couple years back in the early 2010s. So to do it again, he's already been around the organization. He already knows what it's like. He knows what it's like to deal with the New York media and be the coach of, the Rangers and stuff like that. So, for a guy that's already got experience like that, that could possibly help. But you could also look at it as maybe you just want to bring in a fresh face that's never been with the organization, just bring in a new guy. We'll see how it goes. Now, another story today with the NHL was Jack Eichel says he's been a bit upset at how Sabres handled neck injury. So, obviously, Jack Eichel's been out for a little bit now with a neck injury. He injured it. I don't even know when he injured it. It was like 2 months ago or something. I don't even know. He's been out for a long time. Let me see if this article says. I read over the article before. I could probably see it again. Yeah, I don't know. It doesn't say. But anyway, he's missed a long time. He's missed a very long time. Now, Jack Eichel and obviously the Buffalo Sabres, and as a Buffalo Sabres team as a whole, went into this season with with aspirations of possibly being a playoff team and being a competitive hockey team. You went out, got Taylor Hall. Obviously, Eichel was coming back. You got guys like Reinhart, and you had, a young player in Victor Olofsson and Kyle Poso, and you're sitting here and you're like, all right, I feel pretty good about this team. Like, I'm feeling pretty good. Like, I do believe that this team, might be headed in the right direction. And then everything, like I've said, I mentioned this so many times with talking about Taylor Hall, everything just took a left turn right off the boat started sinking, and it hasn't been found since. And it's still sinking. Until they get their coach right, until they get another player in here, until they figure out this Jack Eichel situation, that's when the franchise will be able to recover maybe a little bit. But Jack Eichel, the Sabres are hugely invested in Jack Eichel. They signed him to a contract that is through 8-year deal that was through 2026. So they're heavily invested in Jack Eichel. So, this is one of these things where, to see your star player, your face of the franchise, be upset like this, that ain't good. Because you're invested in him through 2026. He's a guy that you drafted. He's a guy that's come up through your system. He's now here. And now he's still angry, but you gave him all this money. And that's where the Sabres are in a very complicated situation. Now, I don't really know, like I said, I can't speak for Jack Eichel. But I think what Jack Eichel is trying to do is he's trying to kind of, not like publicly, but he's trying to just get himself out of Buffalo. He's trying to say, you know what, I got to get out of here. I have to get out of here. And he's doing it in a kind of a more of a simpler way. Instead of saying it, I want out, he's kind of saying these little things here and there like, oh, I'm angry how they did this. Oh, I'm mad about they did this. So around the league, they start to hear it. And then you might get a team that calls up asking for a trade, and boom, just like that, Eichel's on a contender. Now, I've talked about this for a couple times now. I still believe that Eichel is going to I still believe that there's a very good chance Eichel's going to get traded. I know a lot of people thought after the neck injury, and it did seem like things started to calm down a little bit with him and the Buffalo Sabres. They obviously got rid of Taylor Hall. They fired Ralph Kruger. It was kind of one of those things like, it was like, okay, Eichel now, they got rid of Hall, they got rid of Kruger. It's almost like, okay, Eichel now is back to, just being the face of the team. All right, so the Jaguars signed Tim Tebow. Oh my God. The Jaguars signed Tim Tebow. So the Jacksonville Jaguars have signed Tim Tebow to a 1-year deal as a tight end. That is unbelievable. Trevor Lawrence has got himself a weapon. That just came in just now. Jacksonville Jaguars are signing former quarterback Tim Tebow as a tight end. That is surprising to say the least. That is very surprising. Now, I mean, there were some rumors about him getting signed, but, I mean, Tim Tebow, really. Anyway, back to my point. With them firing Ralph Kruger and with them not firing Taylor Hall, but trading Taylor Hall, it almost seemed like, okay, Jack Eichel just recoup in the offseason, get ready for next year. It seemed like things settled down. But I still had this feeling that Eichel still wants out. Now, whether the Sabres trade him or not, I don't know. Because I think Eichel wants out, but I don't know if the Sabres really want to move on from Eichel. Number one, he's really good. Number two, they sign him through a deal through 2026. And number three, if they get rid of Eichel, their roster is going to be insanely thin. They're going to have absolutely no one. Like, Eichel is the last remaining piece that's good on that team. So, yeah, I just think, and with the Rangers here, same thing too. With the Rangers here, I would love to get Eichel on this team. I would like it. It depends on what situation, though. And so a lot of news coming in here as the New York Rangers sign Ryan Lindgren to a 3-year deal here. So, and this is almost like this Eichel situation is almost like a little bit like James Harden. Not saying Eichel's James Harden, but I would like the move if we don't give up too much. If we give up a ton of picks, a ton of players, just for Eichel, I don't like that. I'm not gonna like that. That's big. If we give up a lot. Now, if we give up maybe a player and a pick, I would love that. I would love to get Eichel on this hockey team. It depends under what circumstances. If we give up a lot, I don't know how I'd feel about that. But if we give up a decent amount, it's reasonable though, and we bring in him, Panarin, Zibanejad, Kreider, Fox, all them together, you're looking like a really solid team then. So Jack Eichel said he's been a bit upset at how Sabres handled neck injury. And maybe if he continues to just be upset and stuff like that, maybe the Sabres just full on decide to move on from him. And they don't even ask for much. Buffalo Sabres center Jack Eichel has been out since March with a herniated disc in his neck that prematurely ended his season. And he doesn't like how the team has treated him following his injury. I've been a bit upset about the way things have been handled since I've been hurt, Eichel said Monday. There's been a bit of a disconnect between myself and the organization. The most important thing now is to get healthy and be ready to play hockey next year, wherever that might be. Now, that caught me big time. Wherever that might be. Because if he was totally sold on the on the Buffalo Sabres, because once again, he's signed through 2026. So, and if the Sabres, I think if the Sabres are going to trade him, it's because he's going to ask straight up for a trade. Right? I don't think there's, it's not even like if you have a deal through 2026, you should not be concerned you're not going to be on that team next season. He knows, and the Sabres know, he very well could be gone. Gone from the team. Eichel explained that the organization wouldn't let him get surgery per John Vogel of The Athletic. It doesn't work like that. I wish I'm under contract with this team, and they definitely hold a lot of cards on what I can and can't do. The 24-year-old, I'm under contract with this team, and I'm under contract with this team, and they definitely hold a lot of cards on what I can and can't do. The 24-year-old is under contract through 2026 after signing an 8-year, $80 million contract extension, but his future with the team is subtly uncertain. I have a lot of thinking to do this offseason, Eichel said. I think that there's a lot that I have to consider, but for now, obviously, I'm here. When the team announced in April that Eichel would miss the rest of the season with his injury, general manager Kevin Adams indicated that the initial plan was to avoid surgery. The course of treatment was to rehab it and give it some time to see if the disc had moved back to where the doctors were comfortable, and then the hope was he could jump back in and play, Adams said. Adams did not reveal if there was a plan to have surgery going forward in order to prepare him for the future. We all want him back on the ice, 100% healthy, and we all feel that will happen at the starting training camp next year, he added. If Eichel does want to play somewhere else next season, there will likely be plenty of interest based on what the young player has showed while healthy. The 2015 number 2 overall draft pick had at least 50 points in each of his first 5 seasons, peaking with 82 in 2018-2019. The center had his best in 2019-2020 with 36 goals and 42 assists in 68 games. earning votes for the Hart Trophy despite playing for a team that missed the playoffs. The Sabres will miss the playoffs for the 10th straight season this year and currently have the worst record in the NHL. It could be time for the two sides to part ways, helping the player get a fresh start while helping Buffalo rebuild. According to Eric Dudacek of The Athletic, the Rangers made a hard push for Eichel last offseason, but couldn't complete a deal. Like I said, the Rangers, we're gonna go out for him, I believe. It's just a matter of, and maybe now we get the deal done now because, maybe we get the deal done now because he actually wants out. I can very well see the Rangers making a hard push for him now. So, but with that being said, let's get into our next topic, which is the New York Sports Update. Let's get into that here. I can't believe Tim Tebow signed. I can believe it because it came out a couple days ago that he might, but Tim Tebow, that guy's all over the place. Like, he's tight end now. It's a 1-year deal, so he's going to be playing with his former coach Urban Meyer. I don't know how I feel about that. Now, the question is if he will even make the Jaguars. That's just surprising. It's pretty crazy. I mean, a lot of people will make fun of him, myself included, about all the stuff that he's done. Like, oh, he's playing football, now he's basketball, now what's next? Like curling. But to be honest, I mean, it's just like pretty crazy. I mean, it's just like this guy's all over the place. He was playing baseball 2 years ago for the New York Mets, or Syracuse Mets, their AAA team, and now he's playing football again. But anyway, let's get into the NBA. Obviously, the Nets got the win on Saturday. As for today's games, we got the Pacers, Cavs. I'll give Pacers the win. Hawks, Wizards. I'll give Hawks the win. Grizzlies, Pelicans. Give Grizzlies the win. Bucks, Spurs. Give Bucks the win. Jazz, Warriors. Give Jazz the win. And Trailblazers, Rockets. Give Trailblazers the win. As for the NHL, yesterday, just a couple games on there. As for today's games, we got the Flyers, Devils. I'll give Flyers to win. Bruins, Islanders. I'll give Bruins to win. Panthers, Lightning. Give Panthers to win. Canadians, Oilers. I'll give Oilers to win. Jets, Canucks. Give Jets to win. Hurricanes, Predators. Give Hurricanes to win. Stars, Blackhawks. Give Stars to win. Golden Knights, Avalanche. Give Golden Knights to win. And Blues, Canes. Give Blues to win. Obviously, like I said, Yankees won their series. Stanton continues to stay hot. What did I say? I said he was going to continue to stay hot. He has. Obviously got the walk-off. And Gleyber Torres got the walk-off on Saturday. Stan got the walk-off yesterday. Day off today as they are traveling to Tampa for a big series starting tomorrow. So hopefully they get the series win there. As for today's games, we got the Reds, Pirates. I'll give Reds to win. Red Sox, Orioles. I'll give Red Sox to win. Astros, Angels. I'll give Angels to win. Marlins, Diamondbacks. I'll give Marlins to win. And then Giants, Rangers, I'll give Giants to win. As for fantasy baseball, I won in fantasy baseball last week. I won 362 to 240, so I moved to 3-2 on the season. And today I've got going Carlos Correa, Alex Bregman, and that's it. That's pretty much it. Cronenworth, their game got postponed, so he will not be playing there. Injury update is as followed. Yelich back is playing catch, but not hitting as he continues his rehab work. Tom Haudricourt of the Milwaukee Journal-Sentinel reports. And Luke Voigt, manager Aaron Boone said he's hopeful that Voigt knee will be activated from the 10-day injured list during the Yankees' upcoming 3-game series with the Rays that begins Tuesday. Marley Rivera of ESPN.com reports. Luke Voigt has been amazing with that knee rehab, so he will be back, so that's big for the team there. Also, I made a move over the weekend. I activated Yadier Molina off the IL, and I dropped Austin Nola Nola obviously had injured, and then he came back, and he hasn't been playing that well, so I kind of in a way just gave up on him, and I decided to just pick up a new player and or activate Yadier Molina. So, and more than likely, what I'm going to do with Voit is I'm going to activate Voit and probably drop Victor Robles, as Victor Robles has not been good this season, so I'm probably going to drop him and then activate Voit, and then when Yelich comes back, he'll probably take Robles' spot. But Robles will probably be off the team after I activate Luke Voit. So we'll see how all that plays out. But definitely going to activate him soon. So as for fantasy basketball, I'm currently winning 1,601 to 1,414. Today I've got going Trae Young and Jonas Valanciunas. Injuries are damaging my team again. The Wizards announced that Beal hamstring will be sidelined for games Monday and Wednesday against the Hawks before being reevaluated Friday. Then Jeremy Grant still day-to-day. Grant knee has been ruled out for Sunday's game against the Bulls. Keith Langles of the Pistons official site report. So that was new news on him yesterday. Nothing much there. Siakam exited Saturday's game. Then Lowry's out. And then Fred VanVleet's also day-to-day. Same new stuff on him though. Just a lot of guys just injured and stuff like that. So as for fantasy hockey, I'm currently losing 320 to 264. But today I've got going Braden Point, Anses Kopitar, Braden Shen, Brock Beausier, Joe Pavelski, Ryan Nugent-Hopkins, David Perron, Jeff Petrie, Shea Theodore, Adam Larson, Justin Falk, and Mackenzie Weegar. And today I've got going Semyon Varlamov in goal. Injury update as followed. Nicholas Backstrom's day-to-day. Backstrom lower body was on the ice for Monday's practice. Samantha Pell of the Washington Post reports. And Shea Weber's out. Weber upper body will miss the remainder of the regular season, but is expected to return for the start of the playoffs, per coach Dominique Ducharme. Eric Engels of Sportsnet.ca reports. So that's that. No real news other than that. So, and I also dropped Igor Sirkin, picked up Jacob Markstrom as the Rangers season's done now. I was thinking of picking up some other guys that are still playing right now, because the season, there's still some other teams that are playing. So I was thinking of a way maybe to, pick up some of these other guys and hopefully they can get me some points. But, we'll all figure that out, when that comes. But, yeah, it's not looking great in fantasy hockey right now. But now it's time to try to win in fantasy baseball. So, but yeah, with all that being said, that will do it for the podcast here today. Hopefully you all enjoyed it. It was another good podcast like always, so hopefully you all enjoyed it. I will see you all back here tomorrow. Hope you enjoyed it, and thanks for watching.